Hello and welcome to another Album of Record podcast. I'm Craig, joined as always by Andrew. How is it going, Andrew?
It's going pretty good. We have had like the most mild June that I can remember. Like I've barely had to run the AC, but summer is officially here. And I think that's just because the Turnstile album came out last week. So we are in Turnstile summer, and that's just what happens.
You gotta love it. You here in Ohio, you get the overcast gray skies with 110% humidity. It's awesome. I love it.
Correct.
I'm here for it. So one of the things, it's not really technically music related, but I posted something on social media recently because it occurred to me that I think being born in 1979, one of the reactions to my youth and childhood and my childhood home is that in our house, we don't have any museum-like unused rooms. Did you grow up in a house with a living room that was like perfect all the time and nobody ever went in there, or a dining room that nobody ever used? Because it caught a little bit of fire, mild fire, where people are like, yeah, I hated those rooms growing up, so we've turned this room into a music room, or we turned it into an arts and crafts and Lego room, or no, we don't have any of those unused rooms that our parents had. And I think it's something
So
unique to our age group.
we did not really. Well, we kind of did. Like we had a dining room that we wouldn't really use too much. We would eat all of our meals in the kitchen. We had a table in the kitchen, and that's where we would eat our meals. But that dining room like connected you to the living room, so you were like always walking through the dining room, anyways.
It was a crowded hallway.
Yeah, and I think if I remember correctly, I think that's where my parents' record player was too. And I feel like I remember like that being the room where I would listen to all their records. So maybe I get some use, but you're spot on. Like my grandparents definitely had this. A couple of my aunts and uncles definitely had this. Like it was definitely a thing. And I don't really know how many people have that today. Like you just don't see it. And like if you've got a room, like I feel like today you find a use for it, like an actual use for it. Like it seems like such a waste to have that kind of
Yeah,
like you said, museum room.
the last frontier in my house was the guest room. And at some point I was like, this room is not used 350 days per year. And
Yeah.
so I was trying to score my cool dad points, and so we turned it into the video game room so that the kids could, because
Yeah.
the family TV, my wife and I couldn't watch TV if the kids were playing video games. And I was like, you know what? We're not going to waste a guest room when nobody ever uses it. And now I've got the ultimate video game room, which means I hide my kids away.
Yeah. Well, and what's funny about that is I did have that foresight when I bought my house. My house is just a 2-bedroom house. And I was like, well, I know sometimes like, my parents may want to come visit, friends may want to come visit, maybe my brother's family would want to come visit, my sister. So I was like, I want a spare bedroom, but like, I know most of the time I'm not going to use it and I want the space. So I bought a pull-out couch. So that way I could have like just the couch in there, and that was going to be my music room where I would play guitars. I originally had all my guitars in that room, and most of the time it was just a couch. But then when somebody came, I could convert it into a bed. Well, then over time, like I got an elliptical machine, and so that went in there, and then more and more stuff just kept going in there as an overflow. Now you cannot pull out the couch. You can't even get to the couch. It is a full-on junk room at this point. So yeah, I had good
At least you're not
intentions with
wasting the
it.
space.
Yeah, it is definitely not, because I don't have storage in my house. Like I don't
Yeah.
have a basement. I don't have a garage. I like very limited closet space. So like I just need, it's just a place to store things. But like I've really been wanting, and I'm gonna like take us really down a rabbit hole here. But I read an
Oh, good.
article. I read this article about talking about like minimalism. Like that lifestyle.
The
And
older I get, the more appealing it is.
it is. I could never go full minimalist. Like I just
No.
couldn't do it. I like certain excesses, but they had
Like
this
my 12
process.
guitars.
Exactly. And they had this process though of going through like dividing your house up room by room and you spend basically like one day on a weekend on a room, and you just start at one corner and you touch every single thing in your room, in that room. And if you have not used it in the last 2 years, you automatically throw it away. If you have not used it in the last 1 year, you have a real conversation about it with yourself, whether you're going to use it or not. And then if you've used it within the last year to 6 months, then you can keep it. And so I was like, okay, like I think I can do this, you know. So I started on one room, and like I was like, I have so much junk that I cannot do this in one day. So like one day was like half of the room, and I still have a lot more to go in that room. And I was like, my goodness, like, and that's, I picked the easy room first, like, you know, like this applies to like, so your closet, you have to go through, and if you have not worn an item in the last 2 years, you have to get rid of it. And I promise you, I have things I've not worn in the last 2 years that I still very much want to keep, and that's gonna be a
Yeah,
hard.
and this is where it does come back to music, because I combine that with the Marie Kondo "Does it bring you joy" thing,
Yeah.
because I do go through my closet and get rid of stuff that I haven't worn in a long time. Because like I used to work at a job where I had to wear a tie every day, and
Hmm.
like I just don't live in that world anymore, and clothes age poorly. And so I do clear out the clothes, but then I get to the t-shirts and all the concert t-shirts and the band t-shirts, and then you even if I haven't worn it in 2 years, if it brings me joy or
Yeah.
sentimentality, then I keep it. And then it's more like a collector's piece. So I
Yeah.
combine the two methods because I'm not getting rid of all those band t-shirts. There's just no way.
So like I made a rule for myself that anytime I buy a new shirt, an old shirt has to go. That's just, I have like the set. I don't have,
And you made a rule about band
well,
merch this
yeah, I'll
year.
get to that too. But like, oops, I think I lost you. Okay, I think you're back, or am I
Uh,
back?
I'm back. It's me. So
Okay.
anyway, I the last thing I said was you made a rule about band t-shirts this year, band merch.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so, and that's a part of this process. So I have like a set number of hangers. Like my closet is pretty full. Like it's the thing where like the shirts are all like packed together. When I need to get something, I have to part the C's to be able to get a shirt out of there. And so for a while, you know, a few years back, I lost a pretty decent amount of weight. And so like I was just cycling out shirts that didn't fit me anymore. So I was like, yeah, no problem. Well, now I've hit the point where all those shirts are gone, and now I have to make hard decisions, and I don't want to get rid of any shirts that I currently have. And so I made a rule this year that I could not buy any more band shirts this year, because I was like, well, I don't need it. And it's actually been hard. There have been like 5 shirts I've wanted to buy this year.
When some of the bands have amazing merch, whenever
Yeah.
Holy Fawn does a release,
Yeah.
and it sounds like we're about to enter a Holy Fawn music cycle, so we're probably
Indeed.
going to enter a Holy Fawn merch cycle as well.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear about the struggle of not buying discounted merch because
You
you're
know
a
what the
Patreon
hardest
supporter too.
what the hardest one is going to be, and this maybe can segue us into the episode, I don't know, but
Turnstile.
Turnstile at the
Yeah.
Turnstile show, not buying a shirt. That rule is probably going to get violated.
See, I don't have as much trouble with a big band like Turnstile or like the Pearl Jam shows. I went to a bunch of Pearl Jam shows. I've only bought 2 shirts in the last 5 years from those shows. It's the small bands where I know by buying the shirt at the show is going to make a big difference about their gas money and everything else.
Yeah,
And yeah, I bought a
that's fair.
ticket, but I kind of feel like dropping 25 or 30 bucks plus tip at their merch table is really effective. So if my
It,
money can do a lot of good, I'm more likely to spend it, which is why they ran out of my shirt size. I have the one vinyl I have is Saturdays at Your Place, and I don't have a record player, but I have the vinyl.
there you go. Because you needed to support the band.
I did.
Yeah,
And I feel bad. I'm not going to throw it away. I don't know how to unload it, but I'm never going to listen to that record because I'm not going down the vinyl path like you.
yeah. You know, I think it's kind of like a cool thing, and this is kind of this week in Turnstile, which we said we were done with last week. But the fact that Turnstile is no longer that band that, you know, like
Yeah.
that we're supporting, that we feel this need to support so they can have gas money. Like,
They have more money than we do now. Fuck them.
yeah, Turnstile has crossed over. And this week in Turnstile, the numbers are in terms of album sales of Never Enough, and this is pretty cool. This is really like the coolest thing since like Nirvana going number 1 and Pearl Jam going number 2
I mean,
in
hold up.
Billboard.
Get a hold of
I
yourself.
I don't know, man.
It's pretty
Like
cool. It's pretty cool, but I'm not putting this anywhere near Nirvana. But that's
well,
fine.
that's what I'm saying. Like that since then, like that was
All
definitely
right.
way cooler what those bands did. But so Billboard Top 200, Turnstile's previous album Glow On came in at number 30, which was pretty awesome. Like it was like wow, like number 30, like that's amazing. And then Knocked Loose last year with You Won't Go Before You're Supposed to came in at what was it, number 23? Is that what I said? 23,
Yep.
which was like holy shit, like hardcore almost had a band in the top 20. Like that was amazing. So this week we got our results, and Never Enough comes in the Billboard Top 200. So this is not the alternative. Like you'll see a lot of bands, like rock bands now will do like the alternative list and all these like sub lists that Billboard does. No. This is the list, the top 200. Never Enough comes in at number 9. This is a top 10 album in the US.
So what you're saying is Turnstile had to turn their back on hardcore, create an arena rock record,
That's
and
right.
sell out, and
Full
then
on sellout.
they got the number 9 on the
That's
chart.
right. They are officially
The transcript
sellouts.
of this episode is not going to read very accurately because I'm saying that with a smile on my face, tongue in
the
cheek.
sarcasm. Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of now, mind you, Billboard uses this is not a pure album sales list anymore like it was when we were growing up. It now uses a weighted algorithm basically to figure this out. But in terms of current digital albums, it was number 6. Current album sales, number 3. Vinyl albums, number 2. Current rock albums, number 1. Current hard music albums, number 1. Current alternative albums, number 1. And indie store album sales, number 1. This album is absolute smash success. And again, not everybody loves this album. Plenty of people prefer Glow On, and that's...
Well, but before you talk about that, so this is everything that you and I've been talking about for the weeks leading up to this. This is more than just the material. This is a perfect promo cycle. This is a perfect promo cycle in terms of the videos, in terms of the singles, in terms of the TV appearances, in terms of the free show that they put on in Baltimore and the one under the bridge. I can't remember where that one was.
Brooklyn.
This band has done everything right in terms of doing it on their own terms and having it play perfectly to media and social media to get the maximum amount of attention on their own terms. It doesn't feel like that, if you've ever seen Meeting People Is Easy, where Radiohead is promoting OK Computer and Tom York is being tortured by 30-second radio interviews, one after another, hating life.
Mm-hmm.
This band is not hating life. This is just the ultimate artist empowerment story, and having it pay off is just icing on the cake.
Yeah, I mean, the interviews you see them do like have been with quote unquote friends, people that they want to talk to, whether that be the Apple podcast guy,
Zane Lowe.
Zane Lowe. They did some stuff for Pitchfork, a couple of other video interviews they did at Tribeca, but these aren't like, most of these were interviewers were people that they knew. And so you like kind of had this sense that they weren't really like doing anything all that outside the ordinary, and they did the late night performance on Fallon, but like that's playing a show. That's just playing music. And they, put together a killer combination of songs for that. That's just good marketing. And you're certainly right that, Glow On did not have the momentum that this had going into it. In some ways, Never Enough's critical success or commercial success is still a result of Glow On into some degree, right? Like obviously if people didn't like the singles, this wouldn't be working. But it's sort of like in sports when a lot of times guys get paid for what they've done in the past. Like your contract is more a reflection of what you've done in the past, more
Yeah.
so maybe than what you're doing right now or in the future. And so that might be at play to some degree with this, but it's not like this album is getting poorly reviewed though either. So
No.
like I think that this is an album that if you solely like hardcore music that sounds like hardcore music, this album's probably not really for you. You might like some parts in it, but you're really not going to like a lot of these extended interludes and things that they do and the transitions and all that stuff. But I think for everybody else, if you're somebody who likes hardcore but also likes going outside of those lines with hardcore, obviously that's kind of a person like me, you're going to like this. If you're somebody that's maybe not so much been into the hardcore scene, but sort of likes elements of that, this album seems to be working for those people. And this is an album that is so easy to recommend to people that are just casual music listeners too, that there's no hesitation whatsoever to recommend this album to your coworker at work that's wants a recommendation of a good rock album today.
The other thing that occurs to me, again, because of the generation that you and I are from, is when an album or an artist broke big in the 90s and everybody bought it because of a certain song, it would end up in the dollar bin. And that
Yeah.
pretty much doesn't exist today. First of all, I don't think this album, if there's one criticism of this album, it doesn't have that one big single. I don't think that would, it's not like,
Yeah. Unless it's
hang on, I think of
okay.
like Runaround by Blues Traveler, and that was a notorious dollar bin record.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we live in an era where you don't need to have a big radio hit, radio single, and so the art is kind of mimicking the environment, and nobody really has that. I think you could make the case that Never Enough could have been that, maybe in an era where radio was still a massive part of the environment. But I think that this record is not one of those prototypical, everybody bought it because of this and it ended up in the dollar bin later.
Right. Yeah, no, because this album is clearly designed to be listened to in its entirety, not as singles, just the way they did it with these interludes. But I actually think that there's a chance if they do it as an actual proper single, I think I Care could be a pretty big hit. Like that's just
Potentially.
a good song. Like that's just a well-written borderline pop song. That's just a really good song. And I don't think they've actually officially released it as a single, but they did play it on Fallon and absolutely crushed it. But yeah, I don't, but you're right. It's not the kind of hit though that everybody would be like, "Oh man, I bought that album for I Care." That's probably not the case.
Completely random, by the way. Do you remember the 90s band Dig from 1993? Their big song was Believe. They
I
were
don't
a complete
know.
and
It seems
utter one-hit wonder.
familiar. It does seem familiar, but I can't
It's one of
quite
those
place it.
records that I bought when I was 14 and I regretted it. I didn't like it enough to justify it. And randomly today, I thought about it and I was like, I'm going to listen to that record again.
Mm-hmm.
And I stand by the fact that it was disappointing, but I was able to hear things in the songs that I thought were maybe indicative of what the A&R people heard when they signed that band to begin with.
Yeah.
But it's just funny that we've been around long enough that I can go back to a random record from 1993 and listen to it with fresh ears, in a way that it just that was one of those records that was absolutely in the dollar bin.
I rem I remember this is older than that, but I remember you used to see a fair amount of Ugly Kid Joe's America's Least Wanted in the dollar bin. People who bought it for Cats in the Cradle and
Oh
had
yeah.
no clue what kind of band Ugly Kid Joe actually was, and found out like, oh, this is not what I thought I was getting. And so there was a lot of that. But I remember buying an Afghan Wigs album. I remember like seeing something about Greg Dooley being friends with Mark Lanigan, and then I heard an Afghan Wigs song and thought it was kind of cool, and I bought their album, and I think I like 2 days later took it to the record store and sold it back to the bin. I just did not like that album. I don't even remember off the top of my head which one it is. I wonder if I can look that up.
But that Ugly Kid Joe record had 2 songs. Do you remember the second song?
Well, I Hate Everything About You.
Yeah. I just for those who don't
that. I
remember
love that
Ugly
album,
Kid
by
Joe.
the way. I listened to that. Mr. Record Man, Panhandling Prince, Goddamn Devil. Like, there's a lot of songs on that album that
When that
pretty
Cats in the
good.
Cradle cover
Yeah.
owned MTV. Just
Yes.
absolutely owned MTV for a while. The video was good, and it was all over MTV for probably an entire summer. I'm trying to remember when it came out, but
Yeah.
just
Black
unbelievable.
Love. Black Love was the Afghan Wigs album I bought in 1996. Honky's Ladder was the single that I thought was pretty good. So yeah,
I never listened to them at all.
yeah, this was not a huge dollar bin album because like nobody knows who the Afghan Wigs are. But it's just one of those things that was funny that I bought it like because this was just how we did music back then. I had no
Yeah.
way of knowing what the rest of that album was going to sound like. Absolutely no way of knowing. You just had to buy it. Like Greg Dooley and Mark Lanigan were friends, so I bought it. And yeah.
Do you remember when they had the listening stations with the big headphones?
For
like
sure.
You were going to sit there and listen to 14 tracks to decide if you liked it or not.
Yeah. I suppose maybe you could have gotten a gist of it for certain things. Like,
yeah.
You know, like if you were buying Ugly Kid Joe for Cats in the Cradle, you'd find out pretty quick at that listening station that you were not getting anything else like Cats in the Cradle.
All right, so back to Turnstile a little bit. One of the things that happened over the last couple of weeks is Hayley Williams came on and sang with Turnstile, and it occurs to me, I talk about Hayley Williams from time to time because I also like Paramore, and Hayley Williams has also sung Passenger with Deftones. Mm-hmm. So she loves Turnstile, she loves Deftones. So
she is very much a real one.
She has impeccable taste. Why don't you like her, and why don't you like Paramore, Andrew? Come on.
I like Hayley Williams. I very much dislike Paramore, and I don't know, like I've just, Paramore.
I'm an unabashed fan, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, lots of people are. Like, people love Paramore. Like, I'm not like sitting here. I'm not going to say that Paramore is a bad band. I just don't care for them that much. And I think a lot of it is still like stupid bullshit gatekeeping from when I was, when I was still like more militant about what punk is and isn't. And people would call Paramore a punk band, and Paramore themselves would call themselves a punk band, and it would drive me nuts because I'd be like, that is a freaking pop band. That is not a punk band. And I don't know. It was probably stupid, but I don't know. To me, they're just a fairly disposable pop sound. It's just what I hear, pop rock sound when I hear their band, and nothing about it interests me that much. But I have always said Hayley Williams is an incredible performer, one of the just absolute best I've often compared Kat Moss from Scowl to Hayley Williams because they're very similar in that way with their movement and the hair color and things like that. Like, they just capture your attention. Like, it's hard to look at anybody else on the stage when they're on the stage. And they both have that presence. So I've loved that about Hayley Williams. And I've read so many interviews with Hayley where she's talked about, all kinds of like hardcore bands, punk bands, metal bands. Like, she is absolutely legit, very much real about her love for that kind of music. She's been hyping up Turnstile for 10 years. Like, this is not a new thing for
so
Turnstile.
Cool.
Yeah. So I very much like Hayley Williams and appreciate her. Just don't care for her band very much.
And talk about a weird thing for a band like Paramore. They got prominent opening slots on Taylor Swift's Eras tour. They were all over. I mean, that band didn't need any more opportunities to expose themselves to a new generation of fans, but man, did they get it.
Yeah, they're doing just fine. They do not need my approval. That's for sure.
But with their minted status, to lend that credence to a band like Turnstile to pump up. Deftones don't need any help either, by the way.
Yeah.
But
I mean, obviously Paramore is never going to open for Turnstile, but like it's a shame that they weren't on this tour with Turnstile.
Turnstile could open for Paramore.
Well, so that they could, like, that could be a thing that could maybe happen, but I'm just saying, like, right now for this summer tour for Turnstile, I would have loved to have seen them do "Seeing Stars" with Haley, because she does bring an awesome element to that song.
You could barely hear it on the record, but
Right.
that live performance, those videos, her harmonies, her chops vocally
Yeah.
are just out of this world.
Yeah. So it would have been cool to see that, but who knows? Maybe we might get, so at the show we're going to. Did we talk about this? I don't think we talked about this really yet.
No?
But so Craig and I both got tickets to see Turnstile in Columbus this September. It's actually on my birthday, so I will be spending my birthday celebrating with Turnstile.
And me.
And Craig, of course, and Craig, of course, but mostly Turnstile. No,
Yeah.
but no.
Turnstile is what's bringing us together. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. So they're doing an interesting tour, and I really do want to set this up a little bit, because before they announced the tour, one of the things, I think it was the Pitchfork video interview, they were doing like a fan Q&A, and they had asked Turnstile what kind of bands they would love to tour with, like who inspires them in the current music scene. And Brendan made a comment. He said, anytime we've done a show where we've picked the bill, he's like, so if we're headlining something and we get to pick the bill, that's a pretty good indication. He's like, we always pick bands that we're inspired by and that we love. And he said, hopefully you'll be seeing an answer to this question real soon. And so that was like my first hint that, okay, they were about to announce a tour. So they did announce this tour, and it's interesting how they're doing it. So every show is having Speed, an Australian, right? I think they're Australian
I don't know.
hardcore band. And then Jane Remover is also opening. And then that's for every show on the tour. And then there was
Australia.
Emil in the Sniffers, Blood Orange, and Mannequin Pussy. Those three bands are like sort of dividing it up. And so depending on which show you go to, you're getting one of those three. We're getting Blood Orange at the Columbus show. And so I think there's a very real chance we're going to see Dev Hynes come out and do something like Alien Love Call, or I guess he plays something on the new album. You can't really hear these influences or these featured spots on the album too well, but I'm guessing we're going to see Dev Hynes on stage with Turnstile at some point, just with as much as he's done over these last two albums with them. So it's kind of cool that we're going to get to see him. Jane Remover will be interesting. They're an interesting artist. Yeah, I'm super looking forward to it.
And if you could have picked any of those openers, which one would you have?
Oh, Mannequin Pussy.
Wanted? Yeah, me
for
too.
Sure, Mannequin Pussy, for sure.
I loved that. That last record was awesome.
Yep. Was it I Got Heaven? Is that?
I think so. I think so. I'm bad with album titles and song titles anymore.
Me too. But yeah, no,
I've told that story before, that when I was listening to that one, I had my sixth grader in the front seat with me, and he read the band title to me, and I was like, yeah, don't want to listen to Mannequin Pussy around the teenager.
I feel more comfortable, like if I'm talking to somebody at work and I'm like, oh, what are you listening to? Like, I'm way more comfortable telling them I'm listening to Fucked Up than I am to say Mannequin Pussy. Like,
yeah,
that's a hard band name to say to somebody that's not like in your inner circle that you're friends with, which I'm sure is the point, but
I'm sure it is too. Another sign that we no longer live in the era that you and I grew up in, because the first thing a label would have done with that band is say, you can't have that name. You can't even have that album title.
Right. Yeah. Well, like a label to be like, hey, Turnstile, we're going to put up tour posters all over the internet with Mannequin Pussy on it. Like, that would never happen in the 90s.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
They're probably signed to a major label too.
I want to say
Epitaph,
that they might.
Tiny Engines.
Yeah. Which Epitaph is a pretty big label.
Oh yeah. All right. Next topic. So Turnstile caps off a very busy concert month, potentially for you and me.
Yeah.
We've got Turnstile to end the month. We've got Deftones and
Jerry
because
Cantrell.
of Alice in Chains issues with Sean Kinney got hurt
Yes,
or injured
Sean
or
Kinney.
sick or something.
Yeah, I think he's sick.
Yeah. He expected to make a full recovery but couldn't tour. So Jerry Cantrell announced a solo tour with Filter opening and playing a House of Blues in Cleveland, which is a tiny little rock club.
So that's where I saw Alice in Chains, was at House of Blues. I really love that venue. That's one of my favorites in Cleveland, actually, because it's such a unique venue. Like, it's, I don't know, just it's very cozy.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely looking forward to all of those. I think it's cool that, like, we're like, I don't think it should be lost on people because the Deftones show is at
Rocket Arena, the basketball
Rocket
arena.
Arena. I was still going to say Field House, but it's not Field
Rocket
House
Mortgage
anymore.
Field House, yeah.
Right. And
Gund Arena.
It's not Rocket Mortgage Arena, it's just Rocket Arena.
And it's not Quicken Loans Arena either.
It's not, but it will always be the Q to some degree in my heart. But no, I don't think we should, like, I think, like, it really gets glossed over the fact that at this age, Deftones are still able to tour arenas. I mean, it's unbelievable. Deftones, like, that's such an inspiring story. And so, like, back to back, we're seeing Deftones, who have done this for the metal scene, the new metal thing.
Yep.
Kind of rose above and broke out of the chains of that scene. And then Turnstile, who's kind of in the process of doing that right now with hardcore. It's kind of cool that we're seeing these, like, two trailblazing bands within their genre within the same month. And then obviously Jerry is on my Mount Rushmore of favorite musicians. So that would be pretty awesome too.
And with success that at this stage of the game, even with Turnstile, I don't feel like anyone's really begrudging them it. I think
you really don't see too much of it. It's there a little bit, but not much.
Even with the criticism, and I think some of the criticism, like, I hear it, I understand it, but I don't think anybody begrudges them the bigger stages and the larger venues.
No, the criticism is more just people just don't like these songs, like the sort of poppier direction.
I want to put this in context because I do begrudge the ticket price a little bit for Turnstile. After fees, it was over $70. But then again, I also live in a world where I paid almost 10 times that much to see Pearl Jam at face value. So
yeah, but with Pearl Jam, you're going to get a 2.5 hour show. With Turnstile, you're going to get an hour show.
Also true.
I don't know though. We'll see. Like, maybe Turnstile's going to start playing longer shows. I don't, it's like, traditionally hardcore bands play, like, if you're a headlining hardcore band, you're playing 30 minutes, like 40 minutes tops. Like, and this is especially true. Like, I think about all the time, like, if you see clips of, like, a Drain show, which probably is about the craziest crowd, one of the craziest crowds that you're going to see in hardcore, like, they cannot play more than a half hour. Like, you are risking people's health and well-being for them to play longer than that. But, Turnstile, I'm pretty sure the outdoor set at Kemba is going to have a barrier. Like, I don't think people are going to be on the stage for that show. And so, it does make the crowd a little bit more subdued than normal. And so, maybe they're going to play longer shows. I don't know. But no question, like, Turnstile has reached another tier. Like, they're in that tier where they are comfortably charging $70 all in for a show.
All right. So the Brooklyn show, they played for an hour and 20 minutes. And then all of the festival performances are an hour and 10 to an hour and 15. So maybe it's an hour and 20. Maybe it's almost 90 minutes.
Yeah. Which I think that's perfectly happy.
I don't need 2.5 hours.
What's interesting though is if you look at the Setlist FM breakdowns, they're playing more Glow On songs than Never Enough. Now, that could be a function of two things happening simultaneously. First, the shows that they played by themselves were mostly pre-release, and so maybe they just didn't want to give away the songs yet. And then the post-release shows have mostly been festivals, and maybe in a festival setting, you do a greatest hits. You're going to play a little bit more of, the things that people might know, which might be more Glow On than Never enough. I don't know. Just a thought, but I'll be curious to see once they start playing these actual like headlining Turnstile shows. I'm really dying to see what these set lists look like, and I want to see what songs are going to be the staples that come out of the new album.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I've learned over the years is that there are rehearsal cycles for each one of these tours.
Yeah,
And they're still playing, to your point, they're still playing off that rehearsal cycle for the pre-release. And then at some point, they'll get a chance to take a break before their proper headlining tour. And
yeah,
that'll be a different practice rehearsal cycle. And I would guess that there will be more. I almost said seeing stars. More never
never
enough.
enough. Yeah,
But I mean, I think it will. It's the cool thing about setlist.fm is you can see all the glow on and never enough tracks because they're all caps, and so you know
yeah.
just how many oldies they're playing.
That's true. I'll tell you what's interesting is Nonstop Feeling is really getting shafted. That and even Time and Space is only getting pretty much just Gravity lately. It's been about the only thing they no or not Gravity, Real Thing.
Yeah.
It's pretty much the only thing they've been playing off of that. Step to Rhythm still is getting like 3 or 4 songs on it. So that's reaching
I'm gonna have to
real far back
listen
in the
up on
bag.
the old stuff because I never gave a lot
Yeah.
of time to the older stuff, so
You
I
have
don't know it.
you have to at some point, and we need to talk about it offline, not maybe on this, unless we want to do an episode on it. I can always talk Turnstile, but
We got
the
weeks
album
to fill, brother.
Nonstop Feeling, you have to listen to it, and we have to talk about it because that album is amazing in a totally different way. It's like that's probably like I probably like long been like my favorite not Turnstile album. I wouldn't necessarily say it's their best, but it's long been my favorite Turnstile album. So yeah, you
Yeah.
gotta check that one out.
All right, which brings me to one last thing regarding our long September. The opener for Jerry Cantrell is Filter.
Mm.
Do you even think about that? Are you a Filter fan?
I am to a little bit of a degree. So I had Short Bus, of course.
Everybody has Short Bus.
I remember where I bought it. I bought it in Bowling Green at Mad Hatter Records, a mom and pop CD store that is no longer there. And I vividly remember going in and buying it and listening to it on the way home and thinking it was just such a cool thing. Like I did not have much exposure to industrial music, and like that album is like pretty straightforward industrial music. Like,
Yeah.
they would obviously change their sound over the following albums, but that album is a mostly straightforward industrial album. But yeah, so I liked that album. And then the one with picture
Take a picture.
take a picture. What's that
Title
album
of record.
called? Title of record, not album of record. Title of record. That one was huge, and I listened. I spent an entire summer listening to that. That was a great like roll your windows down, just drive fast in your car, blast that
I
album.
saw them
Like
on that tour. It was absolutely incredible.
yeah,
And that was when I couldn't believe just how great of a live vocalist Richard Patrick is. I
hmm
hope he still has it. I think he
yeah,
does. But man, he didn't take notes off because the
hmm
degree of difficulty of what he puts on record is so high.
which
The idea that he would be able to pull that off live was just unbelievable to me.
yeah, I know that it's difficult because when I'm blasting that album while driving and trying to sing along, like that's a pretty wide vocal range that you have to try to hit, and I
Yeah.
I certainly couldn't do it. They had one other album then after that I remember.
Amalgamut.
Yep, yep, I remember listening to that one a fair amount, and I think that was the tour I was supposed to see them. I had tickets to see them, and then like a couple days before the show, Richard checked himself into rehab and canceled the tour. So I do have some Filter debt. I was supposed to see them and never did, so it would be kind of cool to check that off the box. I'm excited to see them, sure, absolutely. Not as
And
excited
plus
as I am to see Jerry again, but
as an opener slot, you're going to get a tight
yeah,
40,
that yeah,
35, 40 minutes, maybe
much
45
much more
minutes,
excited about seeing them open than I would be to see them headline for sure.
which in some ways that makes me sad to say, but also selfishly, I agree with you. Like I have a little bit of like hardcore music fan guilt saying it, but at this stage of the game, I just need to admit it. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
an investment in myself to admit the truth.
Yeah. I just think it's pretty cool though that Filter's still around. Like, I don't know. Like, I just think like,
Although you want to talk
yo,
about a band that it's just Richard Patrick
I
and
was,
hired guns.
yeah. Has there ever been anybody else in the band that was like,
Not really.
because I know the other guy who did Short Bus with him was like a pretty like prominent guy, but he didn't stick around other than that album. What
9,
was that
10,
guy's
11,
name?
12, 13, 14, 15, 16 past members on the Wikipedia.
Yeah, yeah,
But the original members, let's see, I got to go back to the timeline of the members here. Brian Leesgang.
yep, yep. And I can't remember if he maybe had some connection to Nine Inch Nails as well. I think maybe he did. I can't remember, but it's hard to
He came
remember.
back. He came back and did a song or two on a more recent Filter record, just kind of as a, I don't know. I hate to say making amends because that is specific to a program, and I don't want to
Yeah,
imply anything, but
yep,
it felt like that.
yeah,
Outside looking in, like,
for
hey, these two
yeah,
guys haven't worked together since the mid 90s,
yeah,
and they got back together to do a song in the studio. It felt like a cool, I think it was for the algorithm. It just felt like a cool
yeah,
full circle moment.
yeah. That is cool. I hadn't heard about that. So,
Um all right. So last but not least, the trailer came out for the Bruce Springsteen biopic. This has gotten a lot of pub already. Jeremy, I always forget his name. Lip from what he's been in so many things. The
I'm not
actor.
sure. I'm not sure who you're talking about.
It's a three-name actor, Jeremy something something. He's in the TV
Mm,
show about
mm.
Chicago and the sandwich shop. I'll look it up now.
Two guys in a pizza shop.
No,
I, I like you are asking these in ways that I'm never going to be able to help you with the limited amount of knowledge I have of TV
I know.
shows.
All right. So the movie is Deliver Me from Nowhere.
Yeah, never even
Springsteen,
heard of it.
Deliver Me. Jeremy Allen White. Jeremy Allen
Okay,
White.
let me
You don't know
do
who he
a.
is, huh?
I'm going to do a quick little Google search here.
He played Lip on Shameless, and he is the Army from The Bear, which is one of my favorite TV shows from the last few years.
I know who he is. Yeah,
Yeah. He's like one of the biggest names in film and acting right now because of The Bear. And
yeah.
so the fact that he's playing Bruce Springsteen is like a really big deal. The trailer finally came out today, and there's not much to talk about, but I wondered, number one, do you care? And number two, how do you feel about these musical biopics?
What's funny about the question, do I care, is that I really hate Bruce Springsteen's music a lot.
Ouch.
Um, I even like his whole aesthetic kind of rubbed me the wrong way always. It was like, because like my whole life, Bruce Springsteen has been this like legend, this huge legendary figure. And it was like, but he's writing all these songs like he's still living in rural Nebraska, like, or wherever. Now, well, I don't know. I know he has an
New
album,
Jersey.
Nebraska.
Yeah.
Is he even from a rural area, or is this all just a put on? Like the whole like, aw shucks, every man,
You're
pull
gonna get
yourself up
killed
by
for
the boot.
this. But no, I understand what you're saying about his like his essence
Yeah.
and is it authentic and has it been authentic since he was minted after Born to Run? And so I think that's reasonable, but and I'm not a big Bruce Springsteen fan, but I like the greatest hits. I'm like a top 10, top 15 songs by Bruce Springsteen guy. His live shows are legendary. I once had tickets to a show and I ended up giving them to my sister because I just couldn't muster up the energy to go.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't care enough. But I'm really interested in the biopic, and I I love these things. They make me end up appreciating bands. Documentaries and biopics make me end up appreciating bands and artists more than I would have otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
I remember we were laid it was a horrible travel experience where we were laid over for hours and hours in, I think, Charlotte, North Carolina, at the airport. And because it's the modern age and because I'm a geek and I have backup batteries and chargers for days, we had nothing left to do but like watch stuff. And I remember watching a Netflix documentary on the band Rush. And I'm like, I like the top 5 Rush songs, but I'm not a Rush fan. But all of a sudden I got to know these guys and it made me really appreciate them and their story, even if I'm still not that huge of a Rush fan in terms of their music. The same with Queen. And I know that people criticize that movie about Queen and how inaccurate it was and that how they messed up the timeline of even their career. But as somebody who likes the top 7 or 8 Queen songs, it was really cool to see another dimension, even if some of it was fictionalized, of Freddie Mercury and that band. And so I love these things. I hate, this is where I'm going to be unpopular. I hate Johnny Cash. But that Johnny Cash movie was really good.
Yeah. Now, see, I like Johnny Cash.
Well, I hate his music. I like Johnny Cash. I don't like his music.
I like his music. I used to listen to the Folsom Prison live album like all the time. It's been a while now since I've listened to it. Anyways, yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't begrudge other people for liking Bruce Springsteen. I don't hate Bruce Springsteen. I was very clear to say I hate Bruce Springsteen's music, and I don't know, it's just not for me. But I think similar to you, like, I'm not opposed to seeing this movie though. Like, I can watch a movie about artists that I don't care about just because I find everything about what goes into an artist's life to get them to the point of success. I find that whole journey always interesting. Like, I don't, very few people like me would I say like I don't find that journey interesting.
Yeah. Which also reminds me, I always meant to go and watch One Love, the Bob Marley biopic, and I never watched it. So now I've got an assignment for myself. I can learn more about Bob Marley, or at least the fictionalized version that was presented in this film.
Are you having to remind yourself to say biopic and not biopic?
I don't know which one's right. I've always just said biopic.
Yeah, there's always like a reflexive part of me that always wanted to say biopic, but like I know it's biopic.
I don't know that there's a right answer on that one.
It's gotta be biopic. It's gotta be.
I think it's
that's what
it
choice. Is. It's a biopic
of a biography. Yeah, I don't know. All right. Well, I think that's where we leave everybody today. Is there anything else for the record?
Yeah, I do want to just real quick mention, because it's been a couple weeks now and we haven't had a chance to talk about it, but the Queens of the Stone Age Alive in the Catacombs came out, and we talked about this when they teased it.
Yeah.
You know, a month or so ago. I'm just going to say, if you're a hardcore Queens of the Stone Age fan, buy the film. It's not that much. It's pretty cheap. You get a download of it. Definitely worth the watch. It is so cool seeing the band perform in that setting. And just to remind people, they're playing down in the catacombs of Paris, these massive underground catacomb with just skeletons and remains like everywhere. I think something like 4 million corpses are buried down there, something like that.
I can't remember.
It's an insane number. And they did it all in one take. They just started the thing and it's performed in multiple rooms. They definitely rehearsed it beforehand, but the actual recording was done in one take. And they reimagined a bunch of different songs. The version of Paper Machete is so cool. I can't recommend it enough if you're a hardcore Queens of the Stone Age fan. If you're a casual Queens of the Stone Age fan, check it out on Spotify. Give it a listen. It's worth listening to. They released the audio version. Still worth checking out. I don't know if you'll appreciate it as much if you don't really know these songs, and you know, to know what they're doing differently with these songs, because these songs are all like completely redone. But it's just cool to hear it. Like the degree of difficulty of them performing in here was interesting. Speaking of Zane Lowe, Josh Homme was on that last week, and he talked a little bit about the process of recording this, and the reason that Queens of the Stone Age canceled their tour, which I knew they had canceled it, but I didn't realize this was the reason. And the reason was because it was so physically taxing for Josh with his illness or injury or whatever was going on. He was in so much pain going, because there's no electricity down there. There's no outlets. There's no elevator. Like, you're climbing a ladder down there. That whole process of getting everything down there and set up and recording just took so much out of him that they then just canceled the tour. And that was a difficult, conscientious decision that they had to make. And so like it's just cool to see what went into this. I think it's one of the coolest things I've ever seen. I've watched this video, God, I don't even know how many times now already. It's really great and well worth the watch. So I just wanted to bring that up quick and recommend it to Queens of the Stone Age fans if you haven't seen it already.
That this is part of your recommendation corner?
Oh, yes. I am in a corner recommending it, and it's at the end of the show. Recommendation corner. Queens of the Stone Age, Alive in the Catacombs. Check it out. What do you got?
I got nothing. I got nothing. I got the end of the show notes. You can find everything we do at albumofrecord.com. We appreciate everybody who's joined us on YouTube and their podcasting platform of choice, telling other people about it, making comments. We see all the comments on YouTube. It's been really fun to see people interacting with the show and the stuff that we're talking about. So thanks to you guys. We'll talk to you next time. It's been the Album of Record podcast.